Hello, everyone, and welcome to BodyBags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Tats, and this is another random week, as you already know. I'm sure if you've been following this week. Um, yeah, we got an interesting one to talk about today, and I decided to go with a French film from 1971, courtesy of Mondo Macabro. We have "Don't Deliver Us from Evil." Okay. This is a very intriguing film, and I think this is a movie that probably could benefit from multiple viewings because I don't know, I seem like I pick up new things the more I watch it, and I can't really say I like this movie, but it is thought provoking. It is an interesting and thought provoking film. The story is about these two girls. You have Anne here, and you have Laure here. These are two French girls. They're going to basically like a Catholic school, and they're friends, and but they're pretty anti-religious in the sense that they're just not into. In the beginning of the movie, they're not really doing anything like super evil or anything like that. They're just kind of like a lot of what they do in the beginning of the film. You could just kind of chalk it up to just being like angsty teenagers. They're not really into the whole religious aspect or anything like that. And like a lot of young teenage boys and girls will do, they'll rebel, and that's what these two girls are doing. They're just, because, they're going to this Catholic school, so they're having religion being beaten into them and stuff like this. They're just not really into it. And it makes sense, like this would be in this kind of movie, especially, back in the late 60s going into the 70s and stuff like this. This is when, especially after Rosemary's Baby going on and then leading into the 70s and stuff like this. Yeah, kind of, anti-religious movies were really, really kicking into high gear around that time, and so this one is no exception. But the two girls, they're able to go on holiday away from their school, and they, go with their parents, and but they're able to, they live close by to each other, so they're able to spend time together. And they're getting bored, they're getting restless and stuff like this. Um, and she's starting to, like, she's the one who's a bit more aggressive, you know, and she's kind of like, she like in terms of I don't want to say becoming evil, but getting more vicious. And is she's the one who's kind of like becoming more and more like that, whereas the Lord character is more just, she's just kind of like following along and just kind of going with what Anne wants to do and stuff like this. But Anne, you see, she's starting to be cruel to animals. She's being mean to the family as a cat. She's being mean to the cat and stuff. And so they're going to church and everything else. And like when they're doing the prayers and stuff like that. The priest puts the wafer on their tongue, and like they get back to their pew and stuff. They're like sneak it out and all this kind of, like I said, they're rebelling. They're young teenage girls. And that's what a lot of times that's what teenagers do. They, like when they're being raised up and stuff, and they're talking about, like, they have their parents, the school, church, all this kind of stuff. Trying to, I don't want to say beat this stuff into them, but try to teach them this stuff and everything. And just as time goes on, they're just not having it. You know. So at one point, Anne's parents decide that they're going to go on vacation, and Anne decides she doesn't want to go with them. She'd rather stay at home, which it's not that big of a deal because her parents are rich, and they have this big chateau that they live in, and they're like, there's a housekeeper, groundskeeper, you know um, maids, so I mean, it's not like she's going to be alone. There are people there to look after her, and she's like, I want to stay here so I can spend more time with Lore. And so the two of them are going out, just kind of getting into some mischief and stuff like this. And the one thing that it gets to be a pretty uncomfortable movie to watch because one thing that they keep doing is they keep coming across all these men. Now, bear in mind, okay, these are underage girls. And that's the thing. Like watching it throughout the course of the movie, it makes it even more unsettling. They keep coming across these grown men and they're these underage girls. And so they're like flirting with these guys and, just being goofy and all this other kind of stuff. The kind of stuff, it's like teenage girls have done before in the past. The kind of shit that like, like you see these girls doing it and everything else. Like, if you're in the right, if you're thinking clearly, you think to yourself like, dude, they're girls, they're farting around and everything else. You don't encourage it, you ignore it, you know. And that is one of the more unsettling things in this movie is that, these grown men that they keep coming across are treating them like as if they're grown women. And, they look at these girls, like I said, they're girls, They look at these girls as if they're grown women, but they're not, you know. Like at one point, they're offering these girls whiskey to drink. At one point, they're giving them cigarettes to smoke and things like this, and, stuff you're not supposed to be doing with underage girls. Like I said, when, like stuff like this, it's like, yeah, it's like, young underage girls do that sometimes, they'll try to imitate a woman, but that doesn't mean that, they're ready to do what a woman does. And I'm sorry, I know that probably sounded like I took that from the movie Hard Candy, but it still applies. But like at one point, there's this guy that they're goofing on him and everything else, and just flirting with him and stuff like this. And like I said, this guy, if he had any brains at all, he would just ignore it. It'd just be like, yeah, okay, like they're flirting. Yeah, 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 you're girls, just whatever, just kind of, what, bug off, things like this. But they don't. So this guy, like, he tries to attack Lore to have his way with her, and she's able to get away from him. And so they go, at night. The two girls, they go to this guy's farm and they set fire to his haystacks and stuff like this. Kind of like in revenge for him trying to molest Lore, and just they have a caretaker, and like they're like these girls, they're reading like books that they technically they're not supposed to be reading, kind of like controversial, kind of subversive literature and stuff like this, and it's like big deal, I mean, that's not really what I would categorize as evil because hell, when I was young growing up, I was reading books I probably shouldn't have been reading, books that they told me I shouldn't have been reading, and I'm certain I'm not the only person who's done things like that. I think we can all agree, just about almost everybody, like during their growing years and stuff like this, they've read some kind of controversial book or some kind of subversive literature that, technically they weren't supposed to be reading. So I wouldn't exactly categorize that as evil. And at one point, they take these wafers that they collected, and that is okay. Yeah, that is one bad thing that they do. They break into the church and they steal some stuff, and they do this kind of satanic ritual. But the way it's played in the movie, it just almost feels like they're just doing it for something to do or whatever. Like it doesn't feel like these two girls are really like satanic in any way or anything like that. Um, but this one guy, Leon, who is like he's like a groundskeeper at Anne's chateau. He's like leering at the girls a lot. He's, like basically they're able to kind of seduce him and kind of get him to go along with what they want him to go along with. So they make him the priest at this, quote unquote satanic ritual that they want to do and stuff like this. And, so they start, so like they're goofing around with him and all this kind of stuff. And the same thing like the other guy, like he's trying to chase him down and have his way with these girls and stuff like this. And it just kind of goes on and on. And that's the thing, and they do escalate to where it does result in murder. And I'm not going to go much further than that. But like I said, the thing is like, it's, I don't exactly consider these girls too evil. It's like they do some bad things, but I mean, like I said, like really what they do is, like I said, kind of like what you would consider more kind of like angsty kind of teenager, kind of rebellious teenager stuff. I mean, not anything like, super evil. And it's like the people that they're doing, for the most part, the people that they're doing all these bad things against are mostly these grown men who are trying to treat these underage girls as grown women and trying to, have sex with them and, do things with them. And like I said, these are underage girls and they're trying to treat them like adults and everything else. And these girls are not capable of doing what, they're still young girls. They're not ready to do what grown women do and everything. So that's very much what makes this movie uncomfortable, is just to, keeps it, it does, you're going to feel like you need a shower after you watch a movie like this. It's not particularly bloody or gory or anything. There's not like a ton of blood and guts or body parts flying around or anything like that. But like I said, you're going to feel like you need a shower after you watch this, because it's very unsettling. And, in the context of the story, like I said, it's mostly like these young underage girls are being surrounded by these grown men that want to, have these girls as lovers and treat them like grown women and all this kind of stuff, and make them do things that grown women are not, or underage girls are not supposed to be doing. I'm sorry, I know I'm repeating myself, but overall, like I said, I think it's an interesting film. It's a thought-provoking film. I can't really say I like it, but I would say if you want a movie that kind of makes you think a little bit, a movie that you know, kind of challenges you and everything else, and kind of, you want to be brave and kind of watch something you feel like you shouldn't be watching, then yeah, I would say Don't Deliver Us from Evil would be an interesting film to watch. But like I said, yeah, I mean, for the early 70s, there was definitely, you could definitely tell this was from the early 70s. You have the anti-religious message. There is a strong element of feminism in it, you know. Um, the it doesn't really go into this territory. I mean, there is a very strong relationship between Anne and Lore, and even though they say they love each other and they want to be together and stuff like this, it's not. You could maybe read into it that maybe there's a hint of lesbianism to it, but it's not really said out loud or anything like that. If anything, it just feels maybe like a little bit more implied that there might be this kind of, lesbian love between these two girls. But like I said, it's never really explored or anything like that. And, at the same time, it's like, I wouldn't go so far as to say that these two girls are lesbians, because I think I think most people can agree. It's like, oh, you've seen, women who have girlfriends and they say, they're like, oh, I love you. And, you're my favorite person to hang around with and be with and stuff like this. You're just someone, and, like women can do that stuff and not necessarily it be sexual, but I guess, it's possible this could be the kind of movie, you could take from it what you bring to it. So, if you might want to look into this and say, yeah, I think these two girls are gay, it's like, well, that's what you want to think, I guess. Knock yourself out. But anyway, so yeah, it's mostly just kind of like an unsettling coming of age story. These two girls that are, rebelling, they're rebelling against their parents, rebelling against authority, rebelling against religion, things like this, and just kind of like as the story goes along, just things just kind of escalate more and more until it really hits a peak climax. And so, but yeah, like I said, I can't really say I love this movie or I enjoy it. Um, I do think it's interesting. I think it's intriguing. And like I said, if you're up for a movie that kind of tests your metal a little bit, gives you a little bit of an endurance test, and yeah, I would say go ahead and check it out. I think that's more than enough that I can say without giving away too much more. So, if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, could you please leave it a like? And if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to the BodyBags channel. We have a different reviewer, one for every day of the week. I'm the Friday reviewer, and I'm still happy to be a part of this group, and I'm happy to, still be allowed to be a part of this group, and that's it. So take care, everyone. Have a good night, and I'll see you all later.